Okay. Well, welcome, Tamás. You're my next victim as I'm going through and doing the interviews with quite a group of our top engineers here that have kind of achieved the impossible in some ways. We've launched our L6 and our L7 programs, and we typically kind of expect that people in the market are going to do one and maybe a year later do the other. You know, it's kind of standard thing, two parts of an expert. Um, we did not give you guys that benefit. So being the top engineers, we thought we'd put you through the gauntlet and made you do them both right back to back in a very short amount of time. And you achieved them both. So first off, congratulations. No small skill. No small achievement, I would say. And then I just wanted to have a little time to kind of talk with you, kind of carry me through your career. We'll talk about it, you know, what you do at Arista a little bit and what your experience does with the exam. Um, just to let people know this is a real thing. It's not impossible. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. And kind of go from there. So why don't you start off by telling me what's your career been like? How'd you start? How'd you get here?
Yeah, so I guess I started as a jack of all trades at a local car parts reseller company where I was the IT guy, uh, along with a few other friends, and we've been dealing with servers and printers and scanners and everything you can imagine, and building a lot of PCs. And soon I started to like networking a lot, which actually comes from a previous let's say life, as my dad is a sysadmin, or used
Mm.
to be back in the days. And so we've always had the latest and greatest PC at home, and he taught me how to build a PC. I broke a few as well in the learning process, as you do. um, and then I help him uh, build a lot of PCs for other people. And so and we also used to do a lot of LAN parties at my house, with
Wow.
my friends. And so um, I really like the fact that you could connect computers. And back then I didn't know anything. Like, my dad just said, "Oh, you just need to go on and set 192.168, 1.1, and 255, 255, the 255, the zero." I like didn't understand those numbers, so I just learned it as an axiom. And then I went to college, and we started doing CCNA courses. And then I was like, "Oh wow, that makes so much more sense now, subnetting all these things." And um, we also had some switches and routers and firewalls at the company I worked for when I started. So I kind of started to bug the network guy to um, ramp up my skills. And then I started to deal more with networking stuff. But um, then I thought that it's not enough for me, because it was a small environment. And so I wanted to do something more challenging. So then I moved on to Vodafone. And I got into the knock center um, for Hungary's new 4G network, and we were tasked to monitor their entire radio and core network at the time. So there are lots of technologies there, DWDM, and a lot of radio, 2G, 3G, 4G stuff, and also routing and switching, because with 4G, you have IP networks. And it was really nice to see how the radio network, how your phone signal goes to those radio relays, and then they get connected to these 4G routers, and then the packets are forwarded um, to the backbone. And I learned a lot, but there was no possibility to grow there, to go to like the back office, or at least not a very fast career path, I would say. And so after a while, I got hired at a local data center company in Romania, which was doing infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. So we had a bunch of customers who either brought their switches or servers to our DC, or we landed it to them. And I think we had two DCs, and we had like 40 customers, but we were only two people in the networking department, so it was quite stressful and quite a lot of things to do, and a lot of technologies as well. There were a lot of firewalls. Every customer had different designs, and you had to help each and every one of them. Everyone had different vendors as well. So it was a steep learning curve, but I learned quite a lot there. And then we decided to move to Ireland with my partner, and saw this opportunity at Arista. And one of my friends was also working here, and he recommended me. And I think it was one of the hardest interviews I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were multiple interviews, and one of them was an actual lab, which was new to me because none of the other companies put me through a lab. And this was like a lab in an environment like Unit Lab or EVNG. And you there was this network, and you had to make packets go from A to B, and you had to troubleshoot why they are not working. And there was like uh, multicast, BGP, ARP issues, you name it. So it covered quite a lot of things. Uh, some of them I wasn't even very good at, but if you know how to troubleshoot, you can kind of figure things out. You don't necessarily need to be an expert. And after a while, I think I did good then. And then after a while, they said that yep, you are hired. So I was super happy. And then I got here, and I felt like an imposter, because like everyone was so super smart. Everyone was like either CCIE or JNCIE, um, or like similar, or they had a lot of years of experience back then. And so I had to I told myself I really need to you know put myself down and ramp up my skills to be up there with the guys. I'm not a CCIE, but I'm a CCMP. So I think I
It
was
doesn't
still
matter.
yeah, I think I was still a decent engineer at that point, but by no means was an expert at that stage. That was 7 years ago, so there's quite a lot of time that passed since. um, and I like the fact that when I joined, I was blown away that we have only one image uh,
Mm.
that does them all, and you can use it everywhere, on prem, in the cloud, in virtual environments, in containers. Uh, and so it was really easy to learn the CLI. Um, but soon I started to I was very interested in automation, and we had some we had you know we had some early in the early days. We had some tools like Puppet Chef. People were using that, but it was a bit like, those were a bit painful, because you also had to install an agent on the switch. And then came Ansible, I guess. And we also have a quite good API, which is JSON RPC, and you can literally use it with any programming language, which was quite nice. And uh, I wasn't really good in any of the languages at that point, so I started learning Python. And I did Kirk Byers course, which
Mm.
I highly recommend to anyone. Really good
Yeah.
course out there. And then I kind of started doing some small projects, um, and that was also the early days when we shipped CloudVision. And uh, I got a lot of interest in that, because I always liked server stuff. Um, thanks, probably thanks to my dad. And also, it seemed like a very cool, like an eye candy, because you could automate your network. It didn't
Yep.
matter what kind of platform you had. Then there was also zero touch provisioning with it, which is really useful and saves you quite a lot of time. And then we've added telemetry, which was amazing. And I always I always had issues with SNMP at my previous jobs. We always had like high CPU, and where you couldn't collect enough information, or the information that you collected wasn't granular enough, and then it delayed your troubleshooting or made it impossible to troubleshoot issues like drops or congestion and stuff like that. And with real-time state streaming and LANZ, suddenly we had a whole new world of a way of troubleshooting your network, and plus all the other really cool states that we are streaming. And then we slowly started added these nice dashboards that you could build, so
Yeah, I
to
think
to help you monitor.
that's one of the things I enjoy the most out of it is, um, at a time when the market was kind of reacting and we're all going to collect data on everything. It's all about the data. Let's go big data with everything. And when I walked in the door here and I started seeing, I was like, all right, okay, this is the same play. I've been in our competitor spaces for years and years and years, decades. And I'm like, so I've heard this story before. Let's see what it is. And one of the things that struck me the most is, I think it's one of the first conversations I've ever had with you when we started here, because your story, by the way, and I'm gonna come back and say a little bit more on that, is, yeah, kind of cool. You start where you say you started all this, and by far, I mean, you're not gonna say this out loud, but I will. When I started here, and I'm kind of going around and looking at what we wanted to do with the training program, and I really wanted to reach out to everybody. I wanted to look at all of our products. I wanted to find out what we could do better. What are our customers asking for? I kind of needed to hear that voice. Um, when I started asking around some of the people up the stack a little bit that I've known for 20 plus years, like who's the best guy I can talk to on CVP? This is where I heard your name the first time, and I think one of my first questions to you was like, I don't understand, and it's still confusing for a lot of people. Is we're recording all this granular detail real time. What a cool feature to be able to have, that I can actually look and scroll my bar back in time and look. But how does that work with how much data we're collecting and things like this? And I remember asking you that and going, okay, here's the genius in this system. Is not that we're just collecting a lot of data. It's not that we're collecting it real time. It's not just what we're doing with the messaging and how we do that differently. All that's brilliant. But what is really, really useful for a customer point of view is the fact that we're only collecting the things that are relevant. We're not just collecting, what did you eat on Tuesday night in a full moon in the middle of October? Like, there's so many of the other systems that are collecting this needless data. So now you can't use it for troubleshooting, because your first step of troubleshooting is trying to figure out where all the data is and figure out how to sift through it. You got to become a data scientist to deal with the data. And most network engineers aren't going to go that route. So I love how we've taken and packaged that in a very, very relevant way. Yes, I can build a dashboard now that doesn't give me this huge in-depth look at parameters I don't care about. It saves me from having to type 7 different show commands. I got 7 show commands showing up in real time. That's what the dashboard did for me. And I'm like, this is a tool that if I'd had it 20 years ago, it's the same way that I describe computers. I started on Microsoft and shit like that way back when. And then I don't even remember when, but somewhere along the lines, I flipped over to a Mac. And I was like, if I'd have started with a Mac, I wouldn't know half as much as I know about PCs today, because I learned most of that because of the Microsoft stuff not working great. The Mac just works, right? And that was kind of my same mentality on CloudVision. Is this is such a relevant tool that had I had it 25 years ago when I started, I probably wouldn't know as much about networking as I know today, because I would have had everything in one platform in front of my hands. I would have been able to do my job faster and better. And that just always, that's what won me over with CloudVision immediately was, yeah, I would use it. That's the test I've always put through. I've been a network engineer all my career. Um, I've seen a lot of network management platforms. I have passed on many. I won't use them just because they're distracting. And this was one that I was like, okay, this will be a big challenge for me to have to break down to the world how we're different, because the marketing is the marketing and everybody says the same thing about the same kind of platforms. But the more people that we can show to get there, and this is one of the things we did with training. CloudVision is in every course that we do. That's how much that I believe it is our flagship product. It is what brings everything together. And it is such a cool tool. I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to hear your answer, but at least most of the people that I've shown, or our program has shown how to do this. I mean, I've watched customers that were kind of, we don't want it when we started the conversation. Remove it out of the training. We don't want our guys to hear about it. And I'm like, well, I got to keep some of it in there because that's how we do the labs. And if you don't know how to use it, you can't do the lab. So, and end up finding those customers by the time the training's over, and now they want to adopt the platform. They went from don't tell me about it, remove it, I don't want to pay for my people to hear about it, to we're actually going to roll it out. Just because they got in and had a little bit of experience with it. And to me, I mean, there's not a ton of products, but I will say that there's quite a few products in Arista that work that way. They just prove themselves. You don't have to sell them. They do what they say they do.
Oh yeah, and it keeps getting better.
Yes.
By the day. And now we have also the CloudVision as a service, which customers can use instead of on-prem, and that can save them a lot of time and effort in maintaining it, because we maintain everything for you on the backend side, so you only have to really care about your network, and you don't need to care about installing the servers, upgrading them once in 6 months, or once a year. And if there are any issues, then we detect it automatically. We fix them quite fast, so we have a 99.999% uptime as well. And plus, you get the latest and greatest features all the time, and you also get all the new AI and machine learning stuff, which you might not be able to get on-prem due to resource constraints as well.
Yeah, no,
So
I mean,
that's
and we, and the cool thing is we don't force you. You don't have to use it.
of
There's,
course, yeah.
there's a lot of other data center solutions out there with our competitors that, yeah, they got a GUI and you can't get around it. And we don't actually force you to do that. So that's kind of cool. So this all started with your dad. It's interesting. That's my background, and how I got into this is I kind of went military, maybe following my dad's footsteps in that a little bit too. He was a Navy SEAL way back in Vietnam, and I kind of went special forces with the Air Force. So I kind of followed the route there. When I got out, I'd been dealing with, I can remember my first exposure to kind of networking, if you would, as a young military guy with no rank. You always have to do the crap jobs that nobody else wants to do, right? It's just kind of the lowest guy in the pole gets to do the worst job. And one of the worst jobs that I had to take on was checking the unit email. That's when the entire unit had one email for the whole unit. Like, no, the people didn't have emails. It was just one. And I remember that was like I don't know. I'll say it this way. I remember when 33.6 on a modem came out, and I thought that was incredible because of how fast it was, right? So we were in there running phone scripts and doing all this stuff, trying to connect and doing all that. And we had, I remember we didn't have wireless between buildings. We actually had microwave, and doing stuff like, it's just some old, but hey, it was the beginning. So when I got out, I wasn't like I was going to be a network engineer. This is all stuff I hated to do. I would rather be out in the mud and, knife in my mouth, gun running around, motorcycle, four-wheeler, jumping out of airplane, whatever that is. That's what I signed up to do. It wasn't to check the email. So when I got out, I was struggling a little bit because there wasn't a whole lot of transferable skills there, not in jobs that were legal anyway. I knew how to do a lot of stuff that would just get me in jail. And when my father again had made a transition when he got out of Navy, he went in the restaurant business for a long time, got a little older, the restaurant business, kind of the tough world to live in. And he made a transition. So as I'm getting out of the Air Force, he was teaching Microsoft, teaching MCSE courses. And he's like, you should try this. And I'm like, dude, all right, there's no way. I don't want to sit behind a computer all day. And he's like, no, seriously, you should check out the salaries and the job positions and all this stuff. And I mean, I think at that time, Tamás, I was coming out of the military making like $25,000 a year or something like that. You know, they don't pay us real great. And I'm like, 80,000, 90,000. Oh yeah, I can get used to doing computers really quick. That's not a problem. And I kind of followed his path out of this too. Same thing. Like the first computer I ever had in my house, same thing. My dad got me because he was starting to get into that. Um, I mean, I can remember him giving us stuff as kids. I had next to Atari was oh God, I can't believe I've dumped the name of this. A Tandy, like computer way back in the day. But again, I'd rather be outside playing, not sitting there typing, code after code. I played with it a little bit. I had an interest in it, but I just couldn't see like why would somebody do it every day. And when I got in the military, I kind of started with the Microsoft. Same thing. Very quickly found I wanted to be further away from end users. That I didn't want to be in the troubleshooting space. I didn't like that. As far as my email's not working. What do? I'm not the right guy to talk to for that. I don't have the right personality for it. So the networking area seemed to be the great place for me to live because I was a little further away from the users. It was really detailed. And what I loved about it was is I never got bored. It was just, there was so much to learn. And I'm still that way. I still love to do this stuff from that point of view. It's kind of neat now seeing that it's all come a full circle. Things that I learned in the beginning now have new names and they're new shapes, but it's all a big circle. So it's neat seeing that perspective, but I still love learning this stuff. It's still fascinating to me, the things that we do every day. But so over your time in Arista, you kind of went from, you started attack in the beginning, or was that
Yeah,
the initial
so
role?
I was part of the tag team here in Dublin, and well, we have two tag teams here. There's one in Dublin, one in Shannon, and yeah. So basically, in the beginning, I was focusing on everything. We also didn't have that many cases back then, but every time there was like a BGP or SPF case, you could see people like jump on the case, like
Right.
that's mine, grab it. And we had like an internal tool where you could just type a command and grab the case. So it was really funny because everybody liked OSPF cases or BGP cases. Like they're certainly more interesting than unknown reload or RMA and stuff like that.
Right.
And then as you know, our customer base blew up, and we started to have lots and lots of new customers, and that meant also more cases. But not it didn't mean that we had more issues. They were like mostly the same issues, but it's just different customers hitting it. And then we also started to have CloudVision in the mix, and I was thinking to myself, well, everybody is an expert here. Everybody knows BGP, everybody knows ISIS or OSPF, MPLS, stuff like that, but no one knows CloudVision at that level. So I have a chance to become an expert myself in something that no one else is an expert in.
I love
So
that.
I really I like CloudVision from the beginning. As you can tell, I even made my own logo in Lego, and I started playing with it. I installed it at in my home, set up a virtual lab, and then started to break it, and then started to fix it back, and so to get more familiar on how it works. And suddenly, I just knew how to fix all the issues that that people were having. And then since we had issues in the beginning, and well, sometimes you do have bugs, there's no code without bugs. So I started to get to know more and more developers, and develop this very nice relationship with them, and started giving them all this early feedback from customers as well, and not necessarily just bugs, but also feature requests or
Right.
You know, I was talking to customers every day, so they were like, "Oh, it would be nice if we could make this a bit more intuitive." So uh, then I talked to our UX team as well, and um, that's how we kind of started to improve more and more on the product and add more testing
And we've done a really
on
good
the
job with that. I mean, how long have you been here total now?
7 years and 1 month.
Okay, yeah. So I'm coming up in a couple of weeks to make 5 years for me. Um, I mean, just in that time, I think I came in right as CloudVision was starting to be a pretty decent package put together. And watching what it's done in that 5 years, I mean, we've had once or twice where we've done a major shift in the GUI. But it's not enough to confuse our customers on a regular basis. It was some pretty significant changes that we made, but I mean, we're being really responsive. I mean, and seeing the size of customers that I see we go in and do this with, impressive because like I said, I've been in that space since I watched Cisco come out with Cisco Works way back when, and it's always been a struggle, and you always could see that from customers of frustration, and I just don't see as much of it. Not saying that we have the perfect product, it's a product, and one size doesn't fit all. So we're always going to have some people that find something they wish they had, other people that find stuff they wish they didn't have, but I mean, down the middle though, I think we've been very good on being responsive and knowing the roadmaps and seeing where we're going. It just keeps getting better and better and better, and and yet it's a very approachable type product. So no, I mean that's kind of neat for you to make that journey in 7 years, man. That's pretty impressive. So how
Yeah,
do you
but
think we did?
yeah, first I just wanted to also mention that I couldn't have done it alone, of course. So I had my friends, and the developers actually helped quite a lot for me to understand all these technologies. We use cloud native technologies now, and distributed systems, and these are some sometimes, or it can be very complicated for someone who's coming from the networking world who didn't touch these kind of systems before. And I really like that we moved to Kubernetes in the early days, um, and we use open source tools as well. um, and as our customers base grew, we also grew our tech team, and we have now people focused and specialized in cloud vision and net DevOps technologies. As you know, it takes a village to support our customers.
Yeah.
There's no one man army, and there shouldn't ever be. So there are a lot of good, or like everyone is really good and amazing in the tech team, um, and so I hope that customers don't hesitate to call us, because we are just a call away, and we can fix all your problems. And in the unlikely event that we can't, we always have our developers to back us. So it's nice to see so many teams working together, like the tech team, the development team, the SEs, the sys team, the product managers, the UX team. We all have one goal, to make our customers' life easy and make them happy. um yeah, so
So tell me a little bit about what your experience with the L6 and L7, like what was your initial take on it? And how do you think we've done as a program? As far as making sure that we're making it very approachable and very streamlined on teaching these people, across the board, these core skills. Like my approach, Tomas, has been we have TAC for corner cases. We obviously we train internally our TAC engineers to deal with corner cases. But that's not the training that I should put to the market for the majority of our customers, because we should be trying to help the majority of customers not get into the corner cases. So, mainstream right down the middle, how we do the exams, how we're making that very lab, focused. Everything's about, can you do it? Not, can you tell me how to do it? Can you actually show me? It's a skill, not a fact. We're not, we don't, We're less concerned about what you memorize and more concerned about what you can do on Friday during the change control. That's the way that we're kind of approaching it. How do we do? Give me a grade.
I honestly loved it a lot. As someone who took a lot of exams before, I really like the idea that, well, it wasn't a multiple choice anymore, so you didn't have to memorize a bunch of stuff by heart without, sometimes even understanding what you're memorizing. Um, um, I really like the fact that you could, do it remotely, and you didn't have to travel to whatever Brussels on book a hotel and uh, have the stress to, I don't know, to not wake up in the morning to go to the exam. And so I really liked that fact. And what was also really really cool, especially I really like the L7, um, because it's also closer to what I do. Um, the L6 was also very nice, but I think that's more focused towards people who want to do design. And I'm even though I'm not very great, but with the design side, I liked the fact that there were no multiple choices, and it gave you the chance to figure out the design yourself. So we have all our good documentation with all our design guides. Um, so you could pick a design based on those or from your previous experiences as well, which I'm sure it could come in handy for a lot of people. And also, uh, I liked that there were no enforcements on what you need to do, like or like the budget or stuff like that. uh, Though probably in real life there would be some budget restrictions as well. um, but I really like that it was up to me to choose what design I recommend, based on what I believe what would be good for the described requirements. And yeah, on the L7, I really liked it because, first of all, you could do it in multiple ways, which is not very true for other exams. Like usually in other exams, it's just one way or you fail. And in this case, it was really nice that you could use either the CLI, which I'm not an advocate for. I really like automation, so I tried using automation from the beginning. And surprisingly, on the third day, it was automation, so I could reuse a lot of my code from the first days or the first 2 days. And on top of that, what's really cool is that even for the automation side, you could do it in multiple ways. So like you could use CloudVision, you could use Python, you can use Nornir, you can use API directly or Ansible, you could use AVD. And I really like that fact that the exam just lets you do it in multiple ways and doesn't just focus on one one thing.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of elaborate on that so that everybody kind of understands the logic there is, um, we do a couple things that are different. Obviously, we all of our exams, even L7, we consider open book, meaning that you can bring resources with you. Anything other than another human being to ask how to do it for you. Um, Outside that, we kind of believe that the best engineers out there are prepared engineers. You don't know what you're walking into when you sit down in the scenario until you get the scenario. So the more prepared you come with that, the better. I mean, if you got a library of Ansible files sitting on your desk and playbooks you've used, I would bring them. If you know where the EVPN design guide is on the website and you want to bookmark it, I would bring it. If you got whatever resources that are there. Now we don't ask you to actually do anything that requires documents outside of our level 1 through 5. We teach everything in 1 through 5 that you will find in 6 and 7. Now you may need to practice it a little bit. You may need to get proficient at it, but there's no secret information that doesn't exist in any of our other courses. We and that confuses people because they're like, how is not everybody not passing? We still It's too early to tell on level 6 and 7, just because we haven't had it in the market yet. But all the rest of our exams are level 3, 4, and 5, which are all very difficult exams. I've seen quite a few CCIE, JNCIE, you know, types that come in, and they're smart guys, without a doubt, smart gals, you know, and they fail our level 3 exam, because our level 3 is a hands-on exam about EVPN and BGP and things like that, and it's not simple. So it's people would think that, all right, this is a giveaway, but no, we actually probably maintain about a 40-50% fail rate. And that's just from people just not knowing the skills good enough to get through the exam. It's not from outside tricky information or whatever. And you know, and in 6 and 7, when we sat down to do this, to say, okay, at an expert level, I'm testing you differently than I would at, say, level 3. Level 3, I want to see that you can get the mainstream kind of typical. I'm careful by saying best practice, because what is the best practice underlay protocol? Is it BGP, OSPF, ISIs? Our answer on that at Arista is all of the above, right? We support them all. Now, we may lead with BGP because we think there's some advantages of not having multiple protocols in play. But hey, if you want to have OSPF and then BGP, and that's how you want to do your overlay and underlay, by all means, it works like a charm. We have very large customers doing that. So, you know, in level 3, I want to try to teach you the skill of EVPN. In level 6 and level 7, I'm trying to teach you or evaluate your skills as an architect or as a lead engineer. And in that case, not any two customers are just alike. They're all slightly different. And what may work in one customer doesn't work in another customer. And it may be exactly the same design requirement, but different people. And you got to change the requirement to fit the people, whatever that may be. So we wanted to leave that wide open enough. And you're right. We, out of L7, there's 3 components of that. One will be a very heavy data center component. One will be more kind of campus and other areas of the network kind of focused. And the third is automation, because we don't feel that you could be a network engineer in 2023 and not know automation. It's just the writing's on the wall. It is a skill that we need to learn now. But what we don't do is exactly what you said. You could do part 1 in the data center with CLI if you want. You could do it with CloudVision. With you can import configurates that you have on your desktop and then tweak them. That's fine. You could write an Ansible playbook. You could run Python. If you can get Chef and Puppet to work, you can do that too, theoretically. We don't care. Like, get it done, you know, and because those are all the real world choices that you have as an engineer back at your customer site. So that's what we're trying to replicate, is that change window and that real world process. So it's funny to me that you said, and we'll end this here in just a sec. I wanted to ask one thing though, because you made a comment. You said design's kind of not your thing. You're more into the everyday, you know, kind of configuring. How did you like having to do L6 before L7? Seeing how that's kind of your background, you're not really design heavy, but you can't even get to L7 without going through that.
Right. Well, it was challenging, of course, because I haven't done something like this before. I usually, when there's a you know, when we have these kind of RFPs internally, I usually help with the CloudVision stuff, because I know that very, very well, and that's a whole different level of, you know, just designing your network. But I did see a lot of networks in my career through, well, mostly in Arista, because we have the tag cases, and we can see uh, what each customer has, and that helped a lot, actually, just by learning what kind of design other customers have, and what designs are RSEs proposing for new customers. That helped me a lot, but it was definitely challenging for, you know, for someone like me who's never done, let's say, a design for a customer, from scratch, basically.
Right, right.
Um,
What do you feel like you're a stronger engineer now, having had to go through that?
I think so. I think it helped me a lot. I also learned some new things after, you know, I did some more research on all these requirements that were asked on the L6. So and there were some things that I relearned that I have forgotten.
Right.
Um, from the EVPN design guide or the or our WAN design guides and stuff like that. So that was
And
good.
you know, and our logic behind that was there's so many experts that come out today and other programs, and I don't speak of those other programs as bad. Listen, those other programs made my career. You know, so without a doubt, there's no, you know, hashing out that they do it wrong. I think they do it an old way. Is the way I would say it now. Being here, is we wanted to try to do that in a different approach. And right now, I mean, I remember when you got an expert, and the only expert in the market was Cisco. And when you did that, that was a career changing event. The day that you found out you passed, I mean, that literally you could go get another job very immediately. Um, and it validated that because those guys, they knew both pieces of it. Then you had to very very hands-on 2 day approach, all that stuff. It was very, you had to get through and prove your knowledge to some other person in order to get through to proctor. And now I think some of that's gone, because I mean it's really difficult when you go and you do interviews with 20 CCIEs and they're relatively new. um they can type stuff in CLI that is incredible, but they have no idea when to use it and when not to use it. So it becomes kind of dangerous in some ways of, you know, really going in with the customer and saying, what is the right one for you? The right one is not the one that you know. The right one is the one that they know. And it's that the skill seems to have be getting lost to me in the industry. So we thought we do it this way. Everybody may not end up being an architect. Everybody may not end up being a lead designer, but everybody should know what buckets what things go into. You know, when is the right time for an OSPF? When is the wrong time for an OSPF? And you should have at least a little bit of that database built up in your head if you're going to be the lead. And that's what we think when we do L7. We figure our customers are going to do the same thing they've done with JNCIEs and CCIEs. Is somebody come in with L7, we're going to put them at the top of the stack. They're going to be running the program. And how do you run the program if you don't know when and where and why not to, and why to do it? So that's kind of the reason that we did that.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
I think I would highly recommend to anyone as well. It's they are one of the most challenging exams I've ever done for sure, and they were a lot of fun as well. So it's really nice, you know, when you write your automation, things actually work, and you can see your BGP peers and your updates going through different DCs. So that's nice.
Well, one last one I'll do, Tomas, and then we can jump off. Is any parting words for anybody that's watching this, that's thinking about doing it? Any warnings? Any words of advice? I mean, obviously, don't give them any details that are going to help them pass. They got to earn it. But um, anything you want to offer out, and then we'll call it.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely try to do it because it's a good challenge and it will 100% make you a better engineer. Um, I think it would be also recommended to do the L345 before because that gives you the basis. And then L6 and 7 would kind of put all these together and would really test your knowledge for all of these. And don't be afraid, of course. It's a it's a good exam. People may or may not fail, but even if you fail, you can retry it, and once you pass, then um, I'm very confident that you'll be able to use those skills at your company,
Yeah,
or would give you an opportunity to be hired for your next company.
yeah, and I would say too that it's, you know, the things that we've talked about is going through. Obviously, CloudVision is our product. Is it a? I mean, as close as you can get to something being Arista proprietary. And reality is, once you dig into it, it's kind of open source too. It's just we packaged it in a platform. So even CloudVision itself is full of just open source stuff that you can learn. My point in that is, you take outside of that, you take EVPN, BGP, VXLAN, all the things that we use in these core designs. If you can use those protocols anywhere that anybody supports those open protocols, it's not just
Oh
Arista.
yeah, definitely.
So if you're
Oh
going to
yeah.
come out of this, you're going to be good at BGP, you're going to be good at EVPN, you're going to be good at Ansible, you're going to be good at those things. Those are skills that I would prefer you use them in an environment that's run by Arista, because that's kind of my goal, because I'm wearing the Arista hat. But the reality is, if your environment is Arista plus Cisco plus Juniper, these skills are going to help you in all three areas. I can't help what Cisco and Juniper doesn't support and where they go proprietary, but if it's open source, that's what we're teaching. We got an Arista title on it, but at the end of the day, what we're teaching are protocols and the skills. So it should be transferable to a lot of places. But well, listen,
Oh
my
yeah,
friend.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's definitely a lot, very helpful in multi-vendor environment, as you say as well. So if you learn Ansible and all the core topics that we teach or you guys teach in the ACE trainings, then you can reuse it anywhere.
Well, listen, my friend, it's been fun chatting. There's a
Likewise.
lot of good conversation here on CloudVision, so I'll be looking forward to kind of posting this out. Again, I want to end it the same way I started. Tamás, not an easy thing, as many people will find when they try it. Open book or not open book. It's kind of an easy exam. They write it very, very difficult because BGP, EVPN, Ansible, I don't have to do a whole lot to
Right.
it to make it difficult. It's already difficult. So not an easy feat to get through, and you did it masterfully, dude. What a great career. I hope you stay here for a long time. And again, appreciate the feedback, and we will be when I finish the video, we'll have your number up here and all this stuff, so everybody can see your number. And good luck with everything in the future, man.
Oh, cool. Thanks a lot, Terry. Thanks for having me on. Good luck to you too.